The following presentation is a film that depicts my very own literacy journey via a digital story. Everything included in this film has shaped my literacy journey in one way or another. To begin, we will go all the way back to 1994, the year that I was born. But first, a quote. "The whole world opened to me when I learned to read." I believe this quote and truly do relate to it. To me, books open up other parts of the world, and this world opened up to me when I learned to read. This picture shows my sister Megan and I reading with my mom. My mom was always a good student in school, and she hoped that one day her daughters could follow in her footsteps. She helped me to achieve this goal by reading to me a lot at a very young age. I thank my mom for helping me learn to love books. This next picture is a picture of me playing with a color matching game with my grandpa, whom I called Tata. He passed when I was pretty young, so I do not remember much about him. From this picture, though, it seems like he must have had an impact on my literacy learning. As a child, I remember one of my most favorite books was The Saggy Baggy Elephant. I absolutely loved that book and to this day collect elephants. My mom recently told me that she read this book so much to me that she could read it by heart. She also said she tried to hide it so I would have her read other books, but I found it. This picture shows me and unhappy Megan with my grandma's sister, Annie. I am seen holding some kind of book at the age of 3, showing that as I got older, my love for books continued. Until Megan and I were in the upper elementary grades, my mom read us bedtime stories from the book pictured here, every single night of the year. A few of my favorites from the book that I remember are Sophie and the Tooth Fairy and something about a pig family going camping. They were great stories, and looking back were a great way to incorporate literacy into our lives every day. I have and always will be a mommy's girl, so when I started school, I really struggled with being away from my mom. In order to help with the pain of missing her, we read The Kissing Hand by Audrey Penn and started to do our very own version of The Kissing Hand before I got on the bus. It didn't take all the pain away, but it helped knowing that if I missed her during the day, I could hold my hand to my cheek or heart and know her love was there. After I got used to being at school, I flourished. I did well in every subject, and as this picture shows, got great marks on my kindergarten report card dealing with reading readiness. My love for reading did not stop there. I became more proficient in reading and was able to start reading chapter books. One of my most favorite series was The Magic Tree House. I loved reading about the adventures Jack and Annie had all over the world. I felt free when reading these books and could just let my imagination run wild. I became addicted to this very large series and even was given some of the books to have as my own. I honestly think I read all of the books in this series. It really was my favorite. When I got to middle school, I started going to the library in my hometown a lot. I would volunteer at the summer reading program for a few hours in the morning and afternoon during the summer and spend the rest of the day until 4 or 5 o'clock in the library reading or going on the computers. I honestly feel like a lot of my middle school summers were spent here in the Floretta Public Library. Whenever I got to 7th and 8th grade, I began to read the Harry Potter series. I read it because everyone else was, and it was the cool thing to do. Let's just say this series is the only one in which I like the movies better. When the Twilight series became a huge hit, I was right with everyone else reading these books. I enjoyed the series and enjoyed reading. Similarly to what happens to many, my will to read for enjoyment kept diminishing as I had to read more books for school. Books such as Lord of the Flies by William Golding, 1984 by George Orwell, Animal Farm by George Orwell, and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley were all books that I had to read because of school. The list could go on, but for the most part, I enjoyed the books I had to read. The part I didn't like was having to overanalyze the books and take tests on them. This kind of reading was hard to be enjoyable. It was homework. Finally, I got some time to read for enjoyment. The book I chose to read was The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. I loved absolutely everything about it and loved that it made me bawl at the end. I did some research and found that Nicholas Sparks wrote various other books, so I began to read his works, such as Message in a Bottle, The Best of Me, and Dear John. It didn't take long for Nicholas Sparks to become my favorite author. I was hooked on his writing and loved all of his books. I decided to do my graduation project on Nicholas Sparks and his work and learned more than I could ever imagine. Today, I own most of his books and always choose to read one of his books over any other. I love books. I love books for many reasons, but I feel that this quote sums it all up. I love books. I love that moment when you open one and sink into it, you can escape from the world, into a story that's way more interesting than yours will ever be. I cannot wait for this semester to rekindle my love of reading and help me to make more time to read for enjoyment.